Hi, this is George Alger. Welcome to today's segment of Our Ventura TV. Today we're going to be speaking with some of our Ventura neighbors about the potential or pending removal of the Father Serra statue in front of City Hall. So I'm going to let Rick and Eliana White introduce themselves. Let's start with you, Rick.
Good morning, George. My name is Rick White. I'm a 30-year resident of Ventura City. I'm a lifetime resident of Ventura County. I love my home.
All
Good
right.
morning. I'm Eliana White, and I originally come from North Africa. I am Jewish that grew up in a Muslim country and the French government, and with a Spanish descent that comes from the Inquisition. So I immigrated illegally in this country over 30 years ago, and I have to say that this is the only country that in the world where you can be an American first before your religion or your culture.
Very good. So let's just jump right into this. What's your perspective on this pending or potential removal of the Father Serra statue in front of Ventura City Hall?
George, my perspective is that there's some revisionist history going on here and not a complete knowledge of the Father Serra and his influence in California. I believe that people speak about atrocities and evil doings to the native peoples. And I think if you read the history and the timeline, you'll see that Father Serra was a peaceful man who came here under the auspices of the missions and building the missions. And I believe that the Indians worked at, not only do I believe, but I have read that the Indians worked and lived in the missions in a voluntary situation, not under captivity. I think later on, when the Spanish brought in the armies and continued to settle California, that the different timelines of what went on under Father Serra, what in the mission system, and what went on under colonization and the domination of the land and the peoples are two different stories. And I think they're getting blended into one, and people are getting confused.
Thank you. Eliane?
So what I asked myself a question, of what prompted this movement, and I'm thinking, it's probably COVID. And then I'm thinking of an expression in Spanish that we say, el pan y circo de cada día. COVID has affected the population, and some people have lost their jobs, and the entertainment is gone. So now you have a misguided movement that is attacking the very soul of Ventura, and I see it as an attack of history, an attack of art, an attack of a culture. So it's that an anti-movement, and ultimately an attack on our freedom of expression.
Very good. So, go ahead.
And unfortunately, Father Serra is really the scapegoat of this attack. And when you look at the history, it's not really founded. So it really upsets me. And when you think about it, I moved to Ventura because of its history, because of its soul. If you remove all landmarks of a country, like I'm thinking of France, if you removed all the France landmarks, why would you want to go visit France? So ultimately, it will hurt Ventura. We will lose the tourism and what makes this city so beautiful and so attractive. It's art, it's soul, it's music. So I believe we're losing a lot.
Very good. And as a matter of fact, to just tie into that point, for some folks who may not even have a lot of awareness of the statue itself, how would you describe the statue as pertaining to, the culture and the soul and the history of Ventura?
I think just when you look at it, where it's positioned, Father Serra is watching over the city. Father Serra is blessing the city every day and watching over it. So when you get off California Street, that's the first thing you see. You see the city hall, and you see Father Serra is welcoming you to town.
Very good. So a very welcoming presence there. And in terms of like the meaning that he represents to Ventura, what would be your interpretation of that?
You know, he chose the different cities that he built his missions in, I believe, based upon the beauty of those areas and the ecology. You know, he was known as an early ecologist. If you've looked at some of his writings and his notes, he writes about the wildlife. He writes about the rivers. He writes about the fauna and the flora, and he also is one of the first Spanish saints. And why we want to tear down a Spanish saint in a period of inclusivity, I really question if people are aware of that. When I see Father Serra, he connects me back to the natural land. He connects me back to the aqueduct that came out of Cañada Larga and brought the water down here into this city that didn't have a natural flow other than the river that would go through its different machinations. So when I see that statue, I get that sense all the way back to that original building, that mission, and that original natural environment that was here before there was even a mission.
Very good. And would you like to comment on the fact that the Chumash Indians, who are some of the folks who I believe wish to see the statue move, but that they were here for some thousands of years earlier. Do you have any comments on that?
I do. I understand that that the Indians, the Native American Chumash, were a peaceful people, and I understand that most of the different tribes along the West Coast were native. They had plenty. They lived in abundance. When the colonization of the Spanish came in and started to take the land away, is I believe when the native peoples started resenting what was going on. It wasn't the mission system. It was the colonization. It was the forts. It was the presidios that put up the walls that said, this is now ours. And I believe it was another tribe of Indians down in San Diego that burned down the mission in the 1700s. And it was the soldiers that wanted retribution on that tribe and basically wanted to go in and slaughter them. And it was Father Serra that said, no, the Christian way is to forgive them. They need to be brought in. They need to be told that we don't burn down the missions, but then we want to release them and we want to show them our graciousness.
Thank you. Anything you'd like to add to that, Eliana?
No, not at this time.
Okay, very good. So we're just about out of time here. I'm wondering if there is a summating message that you'd like to convey to the viewers.
Sure. I would like to convey that that removing a piece of history, trying to annihilate our past, would not achieve any purposes. Actually, all landmarks are here to remind us of a past, rich, but that may have controversial history behind it too. But I think we need to learn from our past in order to better ourselves. I see this as an opportunity of of expressing tolerance, expressing, you know, our gratefulness for the past, our to be grateful for living in a country where you do have freedom of expression. I see it as respecting that, as respecting our liberties. And if we want to acknowledge, if the Native Americans want an acknowledgement, I don't see why we could not erect a monument to pay homage to their history and their, and their share in our history. And I believe we could do that, raise the funds to erect a statue. We already had that done in the past. We had our own Ventura artist, Frankie, that did that years ago in the early 1980, 1989, 1990s. She did a beautiful piece called Forgiveness, Transformation Through Forgiveness. So we do have, in our own rich culture and art community, we do have the resources to come up with a solution that is peaceful and addresses the, all our expressions, because that's what we are about. We are about freedom of expression in this country.
Very good. I want to thank you both for joining us.
Thank you, George.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And we're going to end this segment right now. So this is George Alger signing off for this segment of Our Ventura TV. Until we meet again.